This clip is brought to you by SaveWithConrad.com.
There are some news and notes coming out of the show though that I do want to touch on, because this is going to be sort of a swan song of sorts for Batista for a little bit. Meltzer would write, the biggest departure, as has been talked about since WrestleMania, is Batista, whose contract expires at the end of this month. He'd originally agreed to work house shows until mid to late June and was advertised on a number of shows. The last word we were told is because he suffered a back and tailbone injury and taking the crash pad bump at the end of the pay-per-view, the decision was made to finish him up with an interview that aired on the April 24th Raw show. Even though he said he's leaving, nobody believes he won't be back. And for that matter, relatively soon, with most people figuring he'll ask to come back in 3 to 6 months. And if not, for sure in enough time for WrestleMania. The feeling is at his age, 41, he doesn't have a lot of big money years left. He's making big money. In recent years, I've heard he's earning between $2 and $3 million annually, and he's doing a lot of $50,000 weeks if it's a pay-per-view week. But he lives big, and there's no way for him to earn this kind of money elsewhere. He's telling people he's got a huge money offer for MMA, and he's going to be leaving for that sport, which has raised a lot of eyebrows given his age and that he has no formal competitive experience in any of the disciplines involved. He's been doing some MMA training of late, but few are taking the idea of him fighting seriously. Plus, people in the company have brought up that that ended a few years back when he was on the losing end of a fight with Booker T, although a street fight and MMA fights are entirely different. But at his age, it's ridiculous, and while some may cite Herschel Walker, Batista couldn't get anywhere near the mainstream press Walker got, and he isn't in the same league of athlete that Walker is. He's been telling friends for more than a year of his interest in leaving to pursue acting. And of course, I think our pal Dave was probably off base a little bit when he said he can't earn this type of money anywhere else. Hollywood has probably earned him as much or more than he has in wrestling, but he does wind up taking a break here for a little bit. Were you surprised that he took a break for a bit?
Well, that final Raw, I asked to speak to Dave because, believe it or not, when he did that promo, and I believe it was with a single spotlight over his head, he was sitting in a wheelchair with his arm in a sling.
Yep.
He had more heat than any heel in the company.
Yep.
And being able to spot that, because I've been around for a minute, I knew it was real heat. And you got to really work in this business, and you got to have TV time. You got to have finishes working to your favor. You got to have a lot of tools to really get over in this business. And Dave, that night was over. And I just anticipating that during the afternoon, I asked him for a few minutes, and we went and sat up in the stands, and I did my very best to talk Dave into staying. I said, Dave, I just told him the truth. I said, you have worked hard to go from a baby face that was as hot as you were to the heel that you are today. You have never been more over, either way, heel or baby face, than you are tonight. Please do not leave. Go ahead and ride this thing out. We need you. It'll be good for you. He looked right at me and he said, Arn, I appreciate that. I think the world of you. And I said, Dave, this is me talking to you. This is not the office or WWE talking to you. This is your friend. Please reconsider. And he said, I want to do some other things. And he wasn't specific on what he did. I'd heard rumblings about, the MMA stuff. When a grown man, says to you, I want to try something, who are any of us to say you shouldn't?
Right.
I mean, not only is he a grown man, he's a guy that has been successful and helped all of us feed our families and put butts in seats, and he's earned that right. And I would suggest now, and after we shook hands and hugged, and I knew I couldn't do anything to sway him. He was going to go, and I think he was just beat up. I think he was travel weary. I think there was a lot of those things that that, even though he's making a lot of money, I think you get to a point where your body is aching every morning. You don't think about the money so much as you do as getting a rest. And in those days, you didn't ask for, hey, I need a couple of months for my body to heal up. You didn't ask that question, because they would say, yeah, sure, you need to heal up, go ahead. And they'd leave you off 8 months. And that's a lot of money when you're in his spot. So you just didn't ask it. And when he left, obviously the MMA stuff, I know that he enjoyed the training that went with that, and he just enjoyed that being something else. It was like cross training that he was doing, and he would come to the building early and he was doing some different stuff with a trainer, which was kind of cool to watch. And that was why he was still wrestling for WWE. He had started that type training. So, I mean, for a guy like that to be able to just call his own shot, and obviously, who's the last laugh on as far as the acting? This cat, what is it, Galaxian series or whatever it is? The sci-fi series, what's it called?
Guardians of the Galaxy, yeah.
Guardians of the Galaxy has done kick-ass business, and he's pretty much a staple in that. So, in the very end, it all washed out where he was very successful. And I'm glad to see anybody leave this business, because the horror stories, are rampant of guys that leave the business and it doesn't go well for them. And they're a beat up ex-wrestler out in the workforce or trying to get in the workforce. And trust me, there's not that big a demand for us. So I was so happy to see anybody do really well outside of the business. And Dave has, and last time I saw him, he was very happy, and it all worked out.
It did work out. And in case you're curious, he would say in interviews years later that the reason he left here is he, quote, did not like the direction the company was going in, but he would come back. They would announce that he's coming back right before Christmas in 2013. He pops back up in January of 2014, has a bit of a evolution run here, and then is ultimately not thrilled with the idea of working with the company again. He's just burnt out. They asked him to participate in WrestleMania 32 in 2016. He declines the opportunity, but he does pop back up for the 1000th episode of SmackDown. And we know that he went out the way he wanted to with Triple H very recently. But the thing that a lot of people sort of poked fun at actually happened. He did compete in mixed martial arts. That fight happened in October of 2012 and he won. He didn't fight the most decorated fighter ever, but still he got to try his hand at it and won the bout. Do you remember watching his MMA bout? Did you see it? Were a lot of the guys talking about it?
Yeah, the guys were all talking about it. They sure were. I think I saw it. Somebody had it on their phone, I think. Pulled it up and I watched it. Hey, I'm going to be the last guy to critique anybody's abilities when they step in an MMA cage. Brother, that's a tough way to make a living. There's 115-pound girls that would kick my ass. So the fact that he won, that's great. Happy for him. I just know that that's a tough way to make a living.
It is. He did go on to make a bunch of movies. You should look up his IMDb sometime because he had a couple of things come out in 2011, including Scorpion King 3, in 12, The Man with the Iron Fists, and 13, Riddick. But then Guardians of the Galaxy, man, it gets him to a whole new level. And you would see him participate in Blade Runner 2049. And I think most of our listeners probably are familiar that he's a part of the James Bond franchise, and he's just continued to have great success in Hollywood. It's hard to say that anybody's going to necessarily follow in The Rock's footsteps, considering what all he's done, but Batista proved all the doubters wrong. And this is sort of his swan song in WWE. And he went out in dramatic fashion going through the stage, huh?
Yep. And hey, I'm glad for him. It had a happy ending. Just remember, Dave, if you need a cowboy to get shot off the roof, I'm your man.
I love it.
Hey, it's Conrad Thompson. Thanks for checking out the podcast here on YouTube. Be sure to hit the subscribe button and the notifications bell so you get a notice anytime we upload some new content. And go save yourself some money right now. If you're in a 30-year loan or you have credit card debt, it's not a matter of if I can save you money. It's a matter of how much. Find out right now for free at SaveWithConrad.com.